Hey everybody, welcome back to the Boston-Raleigh channel. We're going to do another China episode, part 5. We're going to be watching. It's going to be big deal. It's going to be a turning point in the country here. We're going to see what happens. Last week, they made me really sad because the communists started gaining momentum, and I just, I just don't like seeing that. It's not good. It's not good for a society. It's not good for anything. Very bad. Let's see what happened. This is the turning point for existence or obliteration. Chiang Kai-shek, 1937. Scary. War with Japan, 1937.
China, 1937. Tensions have been rising on the border with Manchukuo, a puppet state run by an increasingly militaristic Japan.
Yeah.
So far, China's nationalist leader, Chiang Kai-shek, has carefully avoided a major confrontation.
That's hard to do.
His strategy has been to buy time, to eliminate his internal communist enemies first. But bowing to increasing anti-Japanese sentiment across China, he has concluded a truce with the communists.
Boo! You identified the enemy! There's the enemy! Defeat the enemy! Don't do it! Japan is bad for you guys, but don't do it, man. You can't do it. No.
On the 7th of July, at the Polo Bridge outside Peking, there's an argument over a missing Japanese soldier, and shots are fired.
Uh-oh. War in China.
Within days,
bang, bang.
Japanese reinforcements flood the area. But this time, China is ready to push back.
Yay.
In a speech made 10 days after the Marco Polo Bridge incident, Chiang Kai-shek warns of the struggle ahead. Let our people fully understand the meaning of the limit of endurance.
Yeah.
And the scale of sacrifice implied. For once that stage is reached, we can only sacrifice and fight to the bitter end.
I don't know, man. I think it's gonna be bad.
The national mood is summed up by a popular song, March of the Volunteers.
Hold on, let me go. Let me read through this for a second. Hold on.
Summed up by a popular song, March of the Volunteers.
Arise, those who refuse to be slaves. With our flesh and blood, let's build our great new wall, or our new great wall. The Chinese nation is at its greatest peril. I mean, that's foreboding, but true. Each one is forced to let out one last roar. Well, that's depressing.
In 1978, March of the Volunteers will become China's official national anthem.
Man. March.
The fighting around Peking rapidly escalates into a full-scale invasion. Some historians consider this the moment World War II begins.
Yeah, basically, at least for them it does.
National Revolutionary Army, the NRA, is in the unusual position of receiving support from both the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany.
Oh, wow.
But it's not enough to hold back the Japanese Imperial Army.
No. Well,
with superior tactics, modern equipment, and air superiority, they smash through Chinese defenses.
Big smashies.
Within 6 weeks.
I'll say one thing is that Japan in this whole conflict, they've been hitting way above their weight, right? Japan, for those who don't know, at the beginning of the 1900s, because this is 1937, back at the early 1900s, they'd beaten up Russia in a war, and Russia lost parts of what they were trying to get up in East Asia, and they were doing really well, and no one expected them to be as good as they were, and Now they just keep doing better. They're just a rolling stone here. They went and knocked over all the Chinese, and took over Manchuria very easily. And of course, they're if Japan had been allowed to do this, I think without any kind of foreign intervention, China would have just fallen to Japan.
Nearly 200,000 Japanese troops have occupied a broad swathe of northern China.
Wow.
Including the old imperial capital, Peking.
What?
But it's in Shanghai that both sides will plunge into the abyss.
Shanghai Showdown. It is our fixed policy to resist to the last inch and to the last man. Chiang Kai-shek, 1937. There's a lot of Chiang Kai-shek quotes, but he is the guy, right? The Battle of Shanghai, August through November 1937.
Shanghai is the largest city in China, and its commercial and cultural capital.
Yuppers.
The heart of the city is the International Settlement, established by Western imperial powers in the 19th century, and jointly run by 14 countries, including Japan.
Uh-oh.
The Japanese have recently overtaken the British as the largest foreign presence in Shanghai, with 30,000 civilians, as well as 8,000 Marines and 32 naval vessels.
32 vessels? That's a lot.
Chiang Kai-shek sees an opportunity to divert the Japanese from their northern offensive, while also bringing the war to international attention. On the 13th of August, he orders Chinese forces to attack Japanese ships moored in Shanghai.
You know, it's kind of wild though that like I guess maybe it's not that weird because we do this a lot now, but you have there's so much foreign stuff inside of a country, man. Like we have like foreign embassies and things like that in the US, but imagine having a military presence from like your not so friendly countries. Japan has 32 ships, man. 32 ships in China. They don't even like each other very much, you know? It's kind of wild.
The Japanese send reinforcements.
Bolster their ranks.
Shanghai and the surrounding region become a major battlefront, drawing in 1 million troops.
That's kind of wild.
The city is devastated in fierce urban
That's a lot of
fighting,
people.
with tanks on the streets, poison gas attacks, and air raids.
That's
The
a lot of
NRA
damage.
suffers heavy losses, particularly to its elite German-trained divisions.
Now that's a lot of damage.
In late October, it begins to withdraw. A single battalion is left behind to hold the Sihang warehouse. In desperate fighting, the Suicide Battalion holds out for 6 precious days.
Imagine those heroes. I mean, not that I have a huge... Like, I don't really have a favorite in this particular conflict, because effectively speaking, it's between very, very ravenous Imperial Japan and very, very ravenous, you know, trying to, like, reform China, effectively Taiwan, China. So it's kind of like it's just a big struggle for land. And thinking about that position, like holding a place for 6 days, that's very hard, especially if you know that you're just doing it for your country. You're gonna die at the end of that. You're probably gonna get wiped out. They're just trying to hold out as long as they can to last as long as they can, and that's very valiant. It's kind of amazing.
Buying time for other units to escape.
Yeah.
Their sacrifice and the horrors of the battle occur directly under the gaze of foreign observers based in Shanghai's international settlement, where they are shielded from the worst of the fighting. Their images and reports quickly travel around the world and turn Western public opinion firmly against the Japanese.
It's like that Joseph Joestar thing. He always hate the Japanese. There is a lot of anti-Japanese sentiment in the mid 20th century. We've been working our way back from that in recent years, but yeah, the Japanese like that. It's a propaganda wing, right? There's all kinds of devastation that happens in every single facet of the world, but if you just have that kind of attention on you, it's gonna be like, wow, they're really ruining the Chinese. We gotta help these people, you know.
But what happens next will shock the world.
Even more? Oh, is this the thing? In all modern history, surely there is no page that will stand so black as that of the rape of Nanking. George Fitch, American missionary, 1937. Yeah, that's the thing. The Nanking Massacre, December 1937 to January 1938.
Japanese forces pursue the retreating NRA to the new nationalist capital, Nanking. After a ferocious 4-day battle, they enter the city on the 13th of December. The few Westerners inside the city form an international safety zone to shelter themselves and some of the local population. But most Chinese civilians are left to the mercy of the Japanese.
The uppers, that's bad.
For 6 weeks, Japanese soldiers go on the rampage, looting, torturing, raping, and murdering. The numbers are disputed, but between 50,000 and 300,000 civilians are killed. Around 30,000 Chinese prisoners of war are shot in mass executions. Others are decapitated, or buried alive, or used for bayonet practice. Bodies are piled up in the streets, burned, and dumped in the Yangtze River.
See, this is like akin to World War I, what the Germans did to Belgium that turned pretty much all opinion against them. This is really the twofold incident, because of course you have the fighting in Shanghai, and then you have this, which is absolutely disastrous. Japanese public opinion took like half a century to turn around after this. Like, quite legitimately. It's just like you have the vicious warrior animals that you don't like them anymore after this point. You're seeing what they do to the people right next door from, you know, Western countries in Europe, in the United States, Canada, all that stuff. You're gonna be a little angsty and anxious about, effectively speaking, that kind of mentality. You don't know that you want that coming to your doorstep, and so that's the way a lot of people felt back in the mid 1900s. Yeah, not great, not a great look, but you know, it's history, hindsight. You know, hindsight, almost 100 years ago.
The International Safety Zone is managed by German businessman and Nazi supporter John Rabe.
Blech.
He is appalled by the violence and hopes Hitler will intervene to stop the Japanese.
Well, that doesn't happen.
Instead, the fall of Nanking convinces the Nazis that Japan is the stronger partner, and Germany cuts off its military support to China.
See, imagine, like, everyone else hated what Japan did, but you know, the Nazis, they're a different breed. They're like, power? We like power. If there is just a movement that's inherently like, we have a goal and we want all the power, regardless of how we get it, so that we get to our conclusion, you know, that's usually a bad sign.
The rape of Nanking appalls the world. It is condemned by the USA and League of Nations, the international body dedicated to maintaining world peace.
Big meh.
But their words are not backed up by action.
Nope. Doesn't matter.
Atrocities become a feature of the Japanese war against China. The systematic use of rape as a weapon of war. Forced prostitution on a massive scale.
This is really awful
and the
stuff.
Use of chemical and biological weapons on civilians and prisoners of war.
And so this is actually something that I have that's a very hot take, is that the Germans in World War I, not necessarily Nazi Germany, Definitely not that. The Germans in World War One were completely chastised in when it came time to come to the armistice agreement and everything. They were held very, very much responsible for using chemical weapons on soldiers of war. There's a very big difference between using chemical weapons on soldiers of war and random civilians. If you're killing opposing soldiers, I'm not really like, I guess I prefer it not be brutal, but it is war. When it comes to actual just random people just chemically bombing cities, that's a whole nother, that is a whole nother level. So much worse.
which killed many thousands.
Oh, and let's not forget all the rapping, all of the grapes everywhere.
The Japanese army's next objective is Wuhan. There is a rare Chinese victory at the Battle of Taiyuan, but it is not enough to halt the Japanese.
Nope.
Chiang Kai-shek's government makes a desperate and fateful decision. The order is given to breach dikes holding back the Yellow River at Huayuankou.
This ends up being a really big catastrophe, by the way.
The hope is that the floods will stop the Japanese army in its tracks. In early June, the floodwaters of the Yellow River surge south and east across the densely populated North China Plain. There has been no advance warning to the villages and towns in its path. The consequences are catastrophic. Farmland and entire villages are submerged. 500,000 civilians perish. 5 million are made homeless. The loss of farmland will cause famine and hardship for years to come.
And so this is a big problem with the nationalist wing in China. They so doing something like that, and this barely really affects the Japanese, if I'm not mistaken. This doesn't actually do that much to stop Japan. But this kind of thing is like, all right, desperate bid, we're going to screw the entire civilian population in a large swath of China, cause massive famines, just to try to gain a minor advantage in the war. This is a civilization that is, in my opinion, hell-bent on doing whatever it takes, regardless of what you do to get there. And this is a big reason why, like, I don't think I could actually specifically say, as bad as Japan was, I don't really like how China was either. These are both countries that have no real care for life, valuing human beings. That's not really a thing that goes on here in this whole swath of warring. And these people, all of this damage and destruction doesn't ever in any remote way come close to what happens when the non-nationalists, the communists, take over China.
One of the greatest man-made disasters in history, committed by the Chinese government against its own people.
Right.
The floods failed to stop the Japanese, who merely bypassed the affected areas. By the time Chinese and Japanese forces clash near Wuhan, there are nearly 2 million men engaged.
But so this is also a big part of the problem, is that obviously the communists are going to use this. Obviously they're going to say, well, these people are horrible. You shouldn't let these people rule you. You shouldn't let the nationalists, you shouldn't let the KMT, you shouldn't let them have any control in China. They went and just killed a bunch of people for barely anything. And that's, while that is true, it's not like the alternative is going to be literally any better whatsoever.
The battle for the city is hard fought, with heavy losses on both sides. But once again, Japanese air power and tactics, alongside the widespread use of poison gas, prove decisive. The city falls after 4 months. The nationalist government retreats 500 miles further inland, to Chongqing.
Yikes.
In the western province,
It's called Chongqing. I don't know. I don't. Sometimes they deserve a little bit of flack sometimes for that.
of Sichuan. The Japanese now occupy China's largest cities
I mean, it could have been worse. It could have been called Ching Chong.
and install a new puppet government in Nanking. But despite its victories, the Japanese army is too exhausted to land another major blow. The war
Been doing a
enters
lot.
a stalemate. Historians label this conflict the Second Sino-Japanese War. The Chinese call it the War of Resistance. But it is about to become a crucial front in a world war.
Yonkers. As the rising sun melts thinly frozen ice, so the Japanese army is overcoming Chinese troops. General Shunroku Hata, 1939. World War II, 1939 to 1945. That's not a small period of time or anything, you know. It's very, very short 6 years, but it's a very consequential 6 years.
By 1939, China's only major foreign backer is the Soviet Union.
Yep.
It provides crucial supplies, and its pilots and aircraft make up most of the Nationalist Air Force.
I mean, it is fair also to say that because Soviet Union is their major backer, you know, this is just Shang's. He's getting boxed. He's getting completely boxed in now. The Nationalists are getting screwed by the Japanese. China's been completely annihilated by their own government. And Soviet Russia is what is currently holding them up and helping them against the Japanese. That's really bad. That's not good. Don't let people get the impression, because no matter what you're doing, communism, maybe under like complete, overwhelmingly dominant bad Sharia, anything is going to be better. Anything else is going to be better than the communist takeover. Anything, literally anything. And this is what you're getting. You get this march into depths of darkness here.
The Soviets are fighting their own war against Japan, a widely forgotten conflict on Russia's far eastern frontier.
True.
But that summer, with war looming in Europe, Stalin makes a truce with Japan. It is signed on the 15th of September. 2 days later, Soviet troops invade Poland as allies of Nazi Germany.
Yep. A lot of people forget that one. The Soviet Union, you know, Stalin, he was duped. He got duped by the smarter Germans. The stupid Russians got duped. So how the turntables and the tables turn on that one.
Despite losing its major foreign ally, China fights on against the Japanese occupation. Chongqing becomes a nationalist redoubt, pummeled by more than 200 Japanese air raids. While in northern China, communists carry out large-scale guerrilla attacks on the Japanese.
Chang's main focus should have been having the communists take all the damage. But I mean, at this point, this is the point of no return. There was no way that this wasn't going to result in the fall of the KMT at this point. There's almost nothing they could have done.
But all cooperation between communists and nationalists has once more been broken off.
Right.
The nationalists now receive foreign arms and supplies via French Indochina, today Vietnam, Cambodia and Laos.
Right.
So in 1940, Japan occupies French Indochina to cut the link.
They just casually take over Hanoi and like half of Vietnam.
But this fresh act of Japanese imperialism alarms the Western powers, whose Southeast Asian colonies are now within range of Japanese forces.
Yeah, like pretty much the Western world controlled this whole part of the world at this point. You know, the Dutch had the Dutch East Indies, aka Indonesia. You had Malay stuff held by Britain, Burma and India held by Britain. You got Hong Kong held by Britain. The Philippines were effectively a very interesting client state of the United States, and then the French having all that area in Indochina. I guess Thailand didn't have a benefactor or an occupier of any kind. Maybe Papua New Guinea as well. I'm not sure.
The US, Britain, and the Dutch impose an oil embargo on Japan, which threatens to cripple its economy and its war effort in China.
That's when you don't sell anything or buy anything from that person.
The Western powers hope Japan will back down. But in Tokyo, the decision is taken to gamble on war.
Yeah, this is pretty bad.
In December 1941, the Japanese launch a surprise attack on the US naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii.
That's really bad. Here's a hint for anyone looking to do imperialism: don't poke the bear. You awakening the biggest sleeping giant in the room is usually the worst thing you could do.
They simultaneously bomb US and British bases across Southeast Asia. In a series of rapid, bold advances, the Japanese capture British colonies including Hong Kong and Singapore, the Philippines, and the oil-rich Dutch East Indies.
So they just took over literally everything. Everything except for the stuff in the Indian Ocean, Bay of Bengal. That's it. That's it. Everything else gone. They took it all over. All the way from Australia to India.
But Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor has woken a sleeping giant.
Yep.
Within a year, US factories are turning out more vehicles, ships, and aircraft than all the other combatant powers put together. China will be one beneficiary, receiving more than $1.5 billion worth of armaments as part of the US Lend-Lease program.
Very nice.
When the Japanese take Burma, supplies have to be flown into China from India.
Holy crap.
A perilous route over the Himalayas, known to US pilots as the Hump.
That's kind of wild. Because, I mean, technically, theoretically, Tibet should be an airway, but you don't really have... Going through Tibet would not have been that viable, because getting stuff from Calcutta to Kunming and to Chongqing, it would have been a much... Seems like it's a much longer path to go around the other way, but it might have... I don't know. The Himalayas are just a part of the path regardless. The thing, though, is that it's technically in Burmese territory, or modern-day Myanmar. I'm wondering if that's strategically better than just sending it a little bit north. Because you would think that you'd want to get as much supplies as you can to the central... Yeah, Chongqing, or Chongqing, as it looks like on the map. I don't know. I guess Kunming might have been a very, very big deal in fighting Japanese occupation in the other countries, though. It's probably the goal there.
Chiang Kai-shek also receives a new chief military advisor, the famously acerbic US General Vinegar Joe Stilwell.
This man is Vinegar Joe. Well, Vinegar Joe, that sounds like a tough dude. I wouldn't want to be fighting Vinegar Joe. I'd be wanting to fight Honey Joe. You don't want to have to deal with Vinegar Joe. Definitely be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Come watch me do a lot more China stuff. Let me know if you want me to do more China stuff. We're about after next week, we'll be halfway through the what is the completed currently series on this Chinese thing on Epic History. We have other things we're doing. We reacted to a couple weeks back. We started reacting to oversimplified history. We've got some other channels coming up in the nearby future. You know, some other guys that have a little blank cartoony faces maybe. We're going to be doing a little bit of that. I like the funny stuff. This is more of the epic, big history lesson, big documentary that's not like go to sleep boring. I like these. We can do a little bit more other stuff though. Definitely be sure to let me know what you'd like to see me do, react to, comment on in the future. Let me know if you like this stuff and want me to do more. Let me know if you want me to keep going. Definitely be sure to have a great rest of your week, and bye-bye.